Chapter 1, The Footprints That Lie. Feel the damp forest floor beneath your feet. The air is thick, heavy with the scent of wet leaves and ancient earth. You've been walking for hours, but something is wrong. Very wrong. You crouch down. There, imprinted in the soft mud of the trail, are footprints. Small ones. Child's footprints. But when you follow the direction of the toes, they point backward. To where you've already been. To where it makes no sense at all. Your heart races. Because in the forests of Brazil, in the lands where the Tupi Guarani people walked long before any stranger arrived, there is only one being that leaves such traces, the Curupira. Its name comes from the ancient language, Curupira, and carries within it the mystery of who covered the body, or perhaps, the body of the boy. But don't be fooled by appearances. What inhabits these shadows is not an ordinary child. It is the owner of the forest. The elemental spirit that watches over every tree, every animal, every drop of dew that falls from the leaves at dawn. Imagine him now, emerging from among the ferns, a small boy, but with a presence that silences the entire forest. His hair is not brown, nor black as night, it is living flames, red as the fire of the setting sun, shining even in the densest darkness. His mouth opens in a smile, and there are his green teeth, like ancient moss, like leaves that never wither. But it is his feet that define his enigma. Turned backward. Always. Not by deformity, not by accident of birth. By purpose. Each step the Curupira takes is a question posed to the intruder: where do you really want to go? He is the absolute guardian. Not a distant god, seated on golden clouds. He is here. In the smell of churned earth. In the cracking of branches you didn't see break. In the sudden silence of the birds when you get too close to a centuries-old tree. The ancient chroniclers, men who arrived in the Americas in the 16th century with their crosses and their books, recorded such creatures with astonishment. They couldn't fully understand them, how could they? They came from a world where nature was something to be dominated, not respected. But the indigenous peoples knew. They knew that the Curupira was neither a monster nor a hero. It was balanced. It walks the forest since before the first axe was raised against a tree trunk. Since before the first arrow was shot for pleasure, not out of necessity. Its existence is the forest's answer to human greed. A living, pulsating defense system, impossible to tame. And he watches you now. Do you feel it? Your skin crawls. The hairs on your arms stand on end. It's not ordinary fear, it's something deeper, ancestral. It's the recognition that you've entered a realm that doesn't belong to you. A realm where the rules are written in roots and blood, not in human laws. The Curupira doesn't speak with words. He speaks with whistles. Sharp, piercing, impossible to pinpoint. They come from all sides and from nowhere. They say that whoever hears the Curupira's whistle for the first time feels time stop. The second whistle brings confusion. The third, well, the third can drive a madman, making him wander in circles until the forest reclaims him forever. But today, at this moment, he only observes. His eyes gleam like embers in the twilight. He sees your intentions. He knows if you came to take only what is necessary, a fruit, some firewood, water to quench your thirst. Or if you came to hunt pregnant females. To fell sacred trees. To leave a trail of destruction where life once dwelled. The forest waits. The Curupira waits. And then, you see, the footprints in the mud begin to move on their own. They rearrange themselves. Now they point in a different direction from your compass. Different from your instinct. Different from everything you've learned about navigation. It's the first warning. If you follow these footprints, they will lead you home, or to the impenetrable heart of the forest, where no human path has ever reached. The Curupira takes a step. The flames of his hair briefly illuminate his face, young, ancient, terrifying. He raises his small hand and points. Not at you. At something behind you. You turn around. And there is no more trail. Only trees. And the whistling begins. Chapter 2, The Blood the Earth Drank. The whistle cuts through the air like a blade of ice. It doesn't come from above, nor from below. It comes from within your own head. The forest, once silent, now whispers in languages you don't know, but which your ancestral blood seems to understand. You weren't born yesterday. And neither was the Curupira. To understand the fury that burns in that boy's hair, it's necessary to go back to a time before time. Before the first caravels tower across the horizon with their white sails. Even before the first Tupi ancestors lit their bonfires under the treetops. In the oral traditions that echo from ancient villages to the present day, the Curupira did not have a common birth. He did not cry upon emerging from the womb of a human mother. He emerged. Just as springs gush from the deep soil, just as the first ferns unfurled to touch the sunlight, the Curupira arose from the forest's own will to exist. He is the Curupira in his most vigilant form, the spirit the earth spat out when he felt the first drop of blood spilled unnecessarily. Imagine the primordial moment. The forest was a perfect whole, a closed cycle of life and death where nothing was lost. A hunter, driven not by hunger but by vanity, killed a pregnant jaguar. He left it to rot on the ground. The earth, offended, trembled. From the roots of the tree where the body lay, a small figure rose. Hair of fire, the color of divine wrath. Green teeth, the color of the vegetation that covers the bones of the forgotten. And feet turned backward, so that no one would ever know where justice had come from, only where it would lead the guilty. This is the origin of the Curupira, it is the reaction. It is the immune system of South America. Unlike the gods of Olympus, who debated in golden halls far from humanity, the Curupira is in the mud. It is in the thorn that tears the boot of the illegal logger. It is in the branch that snaps precisely when the predator approaches. Its existence is a direct response to the disruption of the sacred balance. Why the form of a boy? Why not a giant with a thick trunk or a monster with long claws? The wisdom of the ancients says that the childlike form is the greatest of all traps. Man underestimates the child. The hunter sees a small, defenseless being and feels a false courage. He lowers his guard. And in that moment of arrogance, the Curupira reveals its true nature. That small body contains the force of 1,000 storms. That innocent smile hides the ferocity of one who defends the sanctuary of life. It walks through the ages. It has seen stone empires built and reduced to dust. He saw rivers amused and mountains excavated. But his mission remained unchanged, to protect the true owners of the forest. Not humans, who are merely passing visitors. But the ancestral trees, the flowing waters, the animals that follow the cycle without question. Feel the weight of this solitude. The Curupira has no equals. There is no female Curupira, no children, no court of lesser spirits. He is unique, solitary, eternal. He loves the forest with a burning intensity, but he knows that his love is made of terror for those who threaten him. He watches the generations pass. The indigenous people, who understood the language of the wind and offered tobacco to the tree trunks before asking permission to hunt, were tolerated. Sometimes, they were even guided by him to sources of clean water or fruit trees. There was a pact: take only what is necessary, and the forest will provide. But then others came. Men with eyes blind to the sacred. Men who saw wood where there was life, who saw trophies where there were souls. And the Curupira felt the pain of the earth as if it were his own skin being cut. His green teeth gnashed. His inverted feet spun in the mud, preparing for the hunt. Legend says he doesn't kill for pleasure. The death he brings is swift, or slow through the madness of the green labyrinth. It's a cleanser. A cosmic necessity. Without the Curupira, human greed would have devoured every leaf of this continent centuries ago. You, now, lost on the trail that changed direction, are just the latest chapter in this eternal story. The Curupira doesn't hate you personally. He weighs your importance on the scales of nature. He approaches, floating almost above the dry leaves, without making a sound. The whistling has stopped, replaced by an even more terrifying silence. He stops a few meters from you. His ember eyes fix on yours. He raises his hand again, but this time, he points to the ground, where the footprints continue to multiply, forming a perfect circle around him. There is no visible exit. And then, for the first time, a voice echoes, not in his ears, but directly in his mind. It is not a human language. It is the sound of breaking roots, of drying leaves, of running water. It is the voice of the forest itself speaking through him. Did you come to take, or did you come to ask? The Curupira tilts his head, awaiting your answer. But beware, in the language of the forest, lying thoughts have a scent. And he can smell your intention even before you formulate the word. The circle of footprints begins to close. The surrounding trees seem to lean inward, like the walls of a living prison. The judgment has begun. Chapter 3, The Labyrinth of the Senses. The voice in your mind still echoes, vibrating like distant thunder. Did you come to take, or did you come to ask? The air around you weighs tons. It's not just the humidity of the jungle, it's the pressure of an ancient will testing yours. You try to speak, but your tongue feels thick, useless. Before the Curupira, human words sound empty, dry husks carried away by the wind. He doesn't wait for polished phrases or rehearsed excuses. He reads the truth in the rhythm of your heart, in the cold sweat that runs down your back, in the subtle scent of fear mixed with guilt that emanates from your pores. The boy with fiery hair takes a step forward. Where his foot touches the ground, the grass doesn't bend, it seems to briefly light up with a greenish glow before returning to normal. This is the first power you witness, the geographic illusion. Until this moment, you trusted your compass, the sun filtering through the treetops, the memory of the path you traveled. But the Curupira has just rewritten the geography around him. The trees that moments ago marked the north now seem to point south. The trail you swore you came from has transformed into an impenetrable tangle of vines. In the Tupi Guarani cosmology, space is not linear like in the stone cities of men. The forest is alive, fluid, and the Curupira is its maestro. His inverted feet are the master key to this dominion. By walking backward, he reverses the logic of the tracker. Whoever tries to follow him by the footprints is inexorably led inward, to the heart of the forest, where sunlight never reaches and time loses its meaning. You feel dizzy. The world spins. It's as if the ground beneath your feet is slowly rotating, disorienting your innate sense of direction. This isn't magic in the sense of a trick, it's nature reclaiming its right to be misunderstood. The Curupira is showing you that, here, you are not the explorer. You are the visited. And the host decides when the visit ends. But the visual illusion is only the beginning. Suddenly, a sharp sound cuts through the silence. The whistle. It doesn't come from a specific point. It seems to come from inside your left ear, then the right, then from above, from below. It's the paralyzing whistle. The ancients say that this sound has the power to break the mind of whoever hears it. It doesn't attack the body, it attacks sanity. It enters through the ears and makes thoughts dance, creating images of things that don't exist, amplifying dormant fears, making the bravest man cry like a lost child. You close your eyes, trying to block the sound, but it penetrates anyway. Flashes of images pass through your mind. You see yourself aging alone in the forest, your skin covered in moss, your bones becoming part of the roots. You see your loved ones forgetting your name. You see the forest growing over your city, swallowing everything you built. It is the punishment for those who enter the woods with hearts stained by greed. The Curupira doesn't need to kill you with claws or teeth. He only needs to make you lose yourself so deeply that the forest digests you alive, transforming you into humus, into nutrients, into part of the cycle you tried to violate. However, there is a nuance in this apparent cruelty. If you were a hunter who only takes what you need to eat, a gatherer who asks permission from the trees, a traveler who respects the silence, the whistle would be different. It would be a gentle melody, guiding you outwards, indicating where to find clean water or ripe fruit. The Curupira is just. His severity mirrors human intention. You open your eyes, gasping. The boy is closer now. So close you can feel the heat radiating from his flaming hair. He observes your reaction to the whistle. He sees if you've panicked blindly or if, deep down in the terror, there's a glimmer of respect. His green teeth gleam in an enigmatic smile. He raises his small hand and snaps his fingers. Immediately, the sound stops. The dizziness lessens. The trees seem to return to their original positions, although the trail is still confused, blurred, as if the forest hesitates to reveal its path again. The Curupira points to one side of the clearing. There, among the shadows, something moves. It's not an ordinary animal. It's a majestic jaguar, with an arrow embedded in its flank. It groans, a deep and unjust pain. Beside it, another figure emerges, a deer, also wounded, bleeding on the fertile earth. The guardian of the forest looks at you, then at the wounded animals. His accusing eyes leave no doubt, someone hunted for sport. Someone spilled blood unnecessarily for survival. And that someone left tracks leading in your direction. Or perhaps, the Curupira is showing you the consequences of others' sins to see how you react to injustice. He makes a slow gesture with his hand, inviting you to approach the animals. It's a test. Will you ignore their pain to try to escape? Or will you show compassion, proving that you don't belong to the category of destroyers? The Curupira tilts his head, threads of fire dancing around his childlike face. He waits. The forest holds its breath. If you take the wrong step, the labyrinth will close forever. If you take the right step, perhaps the door will open. But be careful, near the animals, you notice something strange. Their blood isn't clotting. It's glowing slightly, reacting to the guardian's presence. Does the Curupira have the power to undo death caused by evil? Or is it just another illusion to test your faith? He makes a low sound, almost a purr, and turns his back, starting to walk towards the wounded animals. He doesn't look back to see if you're following him. He knows that, now, your feet are bound to the destiny you choose at this very moment. The trail behind you disappears completely, covered by a dense and sudden fog. There is only the path ahead, towards suffering and the guardian. Chapter 4, The Weight of Another's Arrow. The air smells of copper and churned earth. The jaguar's groan is not just sound, it's a vibration that rises through the soles of your feet and locks your jaw. You stand between the guardian and the victim. The Curupira walks with supernatural lightness over the dry leaves, without making the slightest noise, even though his feet are turned backward. He approaches the wounded jaguar. The arrow, made of dark wood and macaw feathers, has pierced the flank of the great feline. Scarlet blood stains the emerald green moss, a violent contrast that wounds the eyes as much as the soul. You feel a lump in your throat. Instinctively, your body tenses to run. It's the primary human reaction to danger, to flee from the beast, even if it is dying. But the Curupira's gauze, fixed on you over your shoulder, is an invisible anchor. Don't run, those burning eyes say. Look. He knees beside the jaguar. His posture is not that of a predator about to finish off its prey, but of an ancient healer, a forest shaman. His small hands, which could crush stones, touch the spotted fur with a delicacy that defies his brutal strength. She didn't die of hunger, the voice echoes again in his mind, not as words, but as clear images. You see, in a flash, the hunter. It's not you. It's a man with a hardened face, smiling as he pulls his bow, proud of his aim, motivated by the vanity of having brought down the king of the jungle. The arrow was shot for sport. For a trophy. The Curupira turns to you. There is a deep sadness in his childlike countenance, an ancient pain that carries centuries of pointless massacres. He points to the arrow, then to his own hands, and finally to you. It's a test of character. In the tradition of the forest peoples, hunting is sacred when necessary for the survival of the tribe or family. Killing to eat is part of the cycle. Killing for pleasure is tearing the fabric of life. The Curupira needs to know if you agree with this logic of destruction or if your heart still beats in rhythm with nature. You take a step forward. The ground seems to tremble slightly. The paralyzing whistle doesn't return, but the silence is now heavy, laden with expectation. You crouch beside the guardian, maintaining a respectful distance from the agonizing jaguar. The animal growls weakly, its golden eyes glazed with pain. The Curupira places his hand on the wound. From his fingers emanates a soft, greenish light, similar to the color of his teeth. It is not fire that burns, it is energy that restores. You watch, mesmerized, as the lacerated flesh begins to close. The blood stops flowing and seems to be absorbed back into the jaguar's body. The arrow's wood trembles, detaches from the flesh as if repelled by an invisible magnet, and falls to the ground with a dull thud. The jaguar inhales deeply. Its muscles relax. The life that escaped through the open hole in its flank returns vigorously. It rises, shakes its damp fur, and looks at the Curupira. There is no fear. There is recognition. A silent reverence between different species, united by the spirit of the forest. Then, the beast turns its eyes to you. Its instinct screams to run. But the Curupira makes a calming gesture. The jaguar doesn't attack. It merely observes, assessing your soul in the same way the guardian did. It sniffs the air, detecting your fear, yes, but also your hesitation, your momentary compassion as you approach to witness the miracle. The Curupira rises. He picks up the arrow that fell from the ground. The wood seems to burn in his hand, smoking slightly, as if the weapon itself were contaminated by the evil intention of whoever used it. He looks at the arrowhead, and then, with a swift movement, breaks it in half. The crack sounds like a bone breaking. He throws the pieces to the ground at his feet. Whoever did this has lost their way, the message arrives clearly in his mind. He thinks he's returning to the village. But my feet have guided him to the abyss. The Curupira then reveals another facet of his power, the manipulation of the invader's destiny. While he was healing the jaguar, the original hunter was, at that very moment, wandering in desperate circles in the heart of the forest, confused by the inverted footprints, believing he was going home while he was getting further and further away from civilization. This is Curupira's justice, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, loss for loss. Whoever takes a life unnecessarily, loses their own way. But the guardian wasn't finished. He pointed to the trail that opened behind the jaguar, now healed. The mist had dissipated there, revealing a clear path. However, he blocked your way with his outstretched arm. You saw the cure. Now you will see the consequence. He gestured for you to follow him. Not towards the exit, nor towards the lost hunter. He began to walk towards a part of the forest that seemed denser, darker, where the trees were gigantic and covered in thick, snake-like vines. The air there was colder. There is something worse than hunting for sport, the inner voice sounded grave, almost funereal. There are those who don't just want the meat. They want to devour their own home. The jaguar disappeared silently into the shadows, free and alive. The Curupira, however, remained motionless, waiting for you to take the next step. His fiery hair dimly illuminated the darkness ahead, revealing silhouettes of trees that seemed to have been recently felled. Touched by iron axes. The smell of fresh sap and dead wood fills your nostrils. It's the smell of large-scale violation. The Curupira takes a deep breath, and for the first time, you see an expression of pure fury on his childlike face. Its green teeth seem to sharpen. Come, its mind commands. It's time to show what happens when greed cuts the veins of the earth. It turns and begins to run toward the felled trees. Its inverted feet leave tracks in the mud that seem to indicate it's coming from that direction, not going towards it. Once again, human logic is subverted. If you follow the literal footprints, you'll get lost. But if you follow the guardian spirit, you'll understand the truth. You run after it. The sound of axes striking trunks begins to echo in the distance, a mechanical and cruel rhythm that violently clashes with the natural symphony of the forest. The Curupira accelerates, transforming into a red and green blur. The judgment of the individual hunters is over. Now, the war against the destroyers of worlds begins. Chapter 5, The Cry of the Sap. The sound of the axes is not just noise, it is physical aggression. Each blow against the trunk resonates in your chest like a hammer blow on a broken bone. The air, once perfumed with orchids and wet earth, now reeks of human sweat, rusted iron, and spilled sap. You run after the red blur. The Curupira doesn't run like a boy, it flows like fire consuming dry straw. Its inverted feet touch the ground with such speed that they seem not to touch the soil, gliding over the exposed roots as if the forest itself were pushing it forward. We reach the clearing. And the sight chills your blood. It is no longer the solitary hunt of a vain man. Here, there are dozens of them. Men in thick clothes, soiled with mud and blood, wielding gleaming steel axes that cut through the centuries-old wood with brutal efficiency. Giant trees, mothers of the forest that took centuries to grow, lie agonizing on the ground. Their canopies, home to nests and life, have been gone. Sap drips from the cut stumps like fresh blood from an open wound, staining the earth a dark, sticky red. The Curupira stops at the edge of the clearing, hidden by the dense shadows of the ferns. He doesn't attack immediately. He observes. And as he observes, you feel the temperature around you drop drastically. The heat of his fiery hair seems to transform into a cold, blue flame of pure hatred. They are not hungry, his voice in your mind trembles with contained rage. They are not thirsty. They have holes inside them that they try to fill by devouring the world. In ancient tradition, felling a tree unnecessarily or without a ritual of forgiveness is one of the most serious crimes against the spirits of the forest. The tree is not just wood, it is a pillar of the sky, a guardian of the soil, a living being with a soul. By cutting them down indiscriminately, these men are not just collecting resources, they are dismantling the roof of the world. One of the lumberjacks laughs loudly, wiping the sweat from his brow. He kicks a fallen log where a bird's nest still lies, crushing the eggs under his heavy boot. The laughter echoes, grotesque, drowning out the silent cries of the forest. The Curupira clenches his fists. His nails, sharp as acacia thorns, dig into his palms. He looks at you. Look closely. This is the face of the end. Suddenly, the guardian steps forward. There is no more subtlety. No more maze tests or gentle illusions. Now, the psychological warfare begins. He takes a deep breath and lets out a whistle. This time, it's not a high-pitched, thin sound. It's a multifaceted howl, composed of the groan of 1,000 falling trees, the cries of fleeing animals, and the cracking of dry branches. The sound sweeps across the clearing like an invisible shockwave. The lumberjacks freeze. The axes fall from their hands. Laughter dies instantly, replaced by a deceiving silence. They look around, confused. To one man, the source of the sound seems to be to his left, to another, just behind his neck. The direction is impossible to determine because the sound doesn't come from the air, it comes from their own minds, fueled by the guilt they carry, even if they won't admit it. "What was that?" one of them shouts, his voice trembling. "It's the wind, just the wind," replies another, but his wide eyes betray the panic. The Curupira smiles, displaying his green teeth that now seem to gleam in the twilight. He begins to move again, but this time, he uses his superhuman speed to create multiple images. A woodcutter sees the fiery-haired boy running to his right and fires a rifle shot into the void. Another sees the figure appear to his left and flees, tripping over his own roots, hitting his face against a fallen trunk. Chaos ensues. The disciplined order of manual labor dissolves into collective hysteria. They begin to see things. Shadows that come to life. Branches that turn into claws trying to grab their ankles. The ground, once firm, seems to become shifting, pulling their boots down like quicksand. It is geographic illusion on a macroscopic scale. The Curupira is reconfiguring the entire group's perception of space. The clearing, which was open and safe, now seems to shrink. The remaining trees seem to lean over them, forming a dead-end tunnel. Distances become distorted. They run 10 meters and it seems like they've run kilometers. They try to reach the edge of the forest and find only more trees identical to those they just cut down. One of the men, the one who crushed the eggs, falls to his knees, covering his ears. "Get out of my head," he cries, sobbing. "Stop looking at me." He sees the Curupira. Not as a child, but as a giant of fire and leaves, towering above the trees, judging him. It is the projection of his own fear manifested by the guardian's power. The Curupira approaches him, walking calmly through the pandemonium. No one else sees him except that particular man. The guardian leans in, face to face with the deceiving woodcutter. You took their home, the voice whispers, just loud enough for the guilty one to hear. Now, you have no home to return to. With a gentle gesture of his hand, the Curupira pushes the man lightly in the chest. The woodcutter is thrown backward, rolling through the mud, and when he gets up, he is no longer in the clearing. He is in the center of a tangle of thorns, surrounded by a thick fog that smells of decay. He was separated from the group, isolated in the personal labyrinth that the Curupira had created especially for him. The other lumberjacks, seeing their companion disappear as if the earth had swallowed him, panic completely. They start running, but they run in circles, colliding with each other, dropping their tools, abandoning the valuable wood they so desired. The Curupira turns to you, who watches everything from the shadows, untouched. His eyes gleam with a dark satisfaction. They think the forest is dead. That it's just matter waiting to be used. He points to the fallen trees. But the forest remembers. And it demands its due. He walks to one of the recently felled giant trees. He places his hand on the stump still bleeding sap. He closes his eyes. For a moment, you think he's going to cry. But when he opens them, there's an ironclad determination. That was just the warning. The real fury comes when the main route is threatened. He looks at the horizon, where black smoke rises, indicating a distant fire. The smell of smoke reaches you, suffocating, carrying with it the taste of ash. The fire, he says, his voice deep as thunder. The enemy that cannot be detected by footprints. The enemy that eats everything. The Curupira extends his hand to you. Come on. The game of hide-and-seek is over. Now, we need to save what remains before the flames consume the sanctuary. He starts to run towards the smoke. This time, he leaves no inverted tracks. He leaves a trail of burnt leaves and live embers, marking the path of urgency. The entire forest seems to hold its breath, awaiting the final confrontation between the guardian and the devouring fire. Do you follow him? The heat intensifies with each step, and the sky, once blue, begins to turn orange, the color of imminent danger. Chapter 6, The Wall of Fire and Ashes. The heat is not just temperature, it's a physical presence that pushes you back. The air trembles, distorting the trees as if they were melting. The sky, once a turquoise canopy, has become a dome of sickly orange and suffocating gray. You chase after the Curupira, but the pace has changed. It's no longer the playful hunt or the psychological punishment of the lumberjacks. Now, it's a race against extinction. The fire advances with an insatiable hunger, devouring centuries of growth in minutes. The flames lick the trunks of ancient trees, transforming them into gigantic torches that illuminate the tragedy with a Dantean light. The Curupira stops at the edge of a stream that is already beginning to boil. He looks at the approaching wall of fire, roaring like a living monster. For the first time, you see something resembling doubt in the guardian's ember eyes. Fire is the only element that his inverted feet cannot confuse. Fire does not follow trails, it consumes everything equally. Geographical illusions don't work against the heat that kills by radiation. This enemy has no mind to deceive. The Curupira's voice sounds weak in your head, muffled by the roar of the flames. He only knows hunger. Animals flee in despair. Jaguars, deer, monkeys, snakes, and birds, all mix together in a chaotic exodus, ignoring their natural rivalries in the face of common death. They run towards the stream, but the water is low, insufficient to protect them all. The smell of burning fur and charred flesh fills the air, a sweet and nauseating odor that makes your stomach churn. The Curupira closes his eyes and raises his arms. His fiery hair, normally shining like the sun, now seems pale before the real hell ahead. He begins to spin, his inverted feet digging deep furrows in the damp earth of the riverbank. "Help me," he commands, not with words, but with an urgent mental impulse. You don't think. You run to him. Together, you begin to dig, to throw water, to beat the smaller flames that try to jump the watercourse. But it's useless. The force of the fire is overwhelming. A centuries-old tree, struck by lightning or a stray spark, falls across the stream, creating a bridge of fire to the other side. The flames cross the natural barrier. Panic grips the trapped animals. A baby monkey lags behind, paralyzed by terror, as the fire approaches. The Curupira sees it. Without hesitation, he lunges through the curtain of heat. His clothes, if he has any, are singed, his skin smolders, but he grabs the small primate and throws it into the water, where you catch it. The guardian emerges from the fire, coughing, his fiery hair seemingly fueled by the destruction itself, now gleaming with violent intensity. He is wounded. Black smoke covers his face, masking his green teeth, turning him into a spectral figure of ash and embers. "We can't win this alone," he admits, his voice hoarse. "We need the rain. We need the spirit of the storm." In Tupi Guarani cosmology, the world is governed by balance. If fire awakens, water must respond. But the drought has persisted for weeks, perhaps a result of the imbalance caused by human hands. The Curupira knows he needs to invoke something greater. He needs to call upon Tupa, the thunder god, or perhaps Iera, to raise the waters of the deep rivers. He climbs onto a protruding rock, above the fire line. He opens his arms and lets out a different kind of whistle. It's not the paralyzing whistle of madness, nor the howl of war. It's a song. An ancient lament, melodious and sad, rising above the crackling flames. It's the song of the dying forest, a cry for help directed to the heavens. The sound travels upward, penetrating the dense smoke. For a moment, nothing happens. The fire continues to advance, mercilessly. The animals groan. You feel the searing heat on your back, preparing for the end. Then, the wind changes. A strong, cold taste comes from the east, bringing with it the scent of ozone and wet earth. The flames waver, tilted by the sudden force of the air. Dark, heavy clouds, charged with electricity, begin to form rapidly in the orange sky, swirling like a whirlwind above the devastated area. The Curupira lowers his arms, exhausted. He looks at the sky, and for the first time, you see tears streaming down his soot-stained face. Tears that evaporate before touching the hot ground. "They heard," he whispers. "The ancients heard the cry of the forest." The first thunderclap explodes, so loud it makes the ground tremble beneath his feet. It's not a distant sound, it's immediate, visceral. And then, the first drop. Large, heavy, cold. It hits the Curupira's shoulder with a hiss, raising steam. Then another. And another. In seconds, the sky opens. It's not an ordinary rain, it's a concentrated deluge, a furious torrent destined to extinguish the open wound in the forest. The water falls with such force that it seems to hammer the soil, raising dust and ashes, turning the ground into mud. The fire hisses, agonizes, and recedes. Where once there were devouring flames, now there are dense clouds of white vapor. The trees that were still standing are washed away, their black leaves gaining a damp sheen of survival. The animals, saved by the water, begin to emerge from the stream, shaking themselves, alive. The baby monkey in your arms leaps to the ground and runs to the Curupira, touching his burned leg with gratitude. The guardian falls to his knees in the mud, overcome by the effort and the burns. The rain falls on him, partially extinguishing the shine of his hair, which now looks like wet charcoal. He breathes with difficulty, each breath a painful effort. You approach, offering support, but he raises his hand, refusing human help. He needs to heal himself, with the earth's energy renewed by the rain. "The fire has been stopped," he says, his voice weak. "But the scar remains. And those who lit the flame, they are still out there." He raises his gauze, penetrating the curtain of rain. Beyond the burned area, on the edges of the intact forest, human silhouettes move. They are no longer the frightened lumberjacks of before. They are men with different equipment, trucks, machines. Those who came after the fire, to take advantage of the dead wood, to occupy the land cleared by destruction. The Curupira rises, trembling, but firm. The rain washes the soot from his face, revealing once again his green teeth and his ember eyes, now ablaze with a cold and calculating resolve. "They think the fire did their work," he murmurs. "They think the forest is dead and defenseless." He looks at you, and there is a new mission in his gaze. "We will show them that the forest is reborn from the ashes. And that whoever tries to reap what they did not sow, reaps the storm." He points to the edge of the burned clearing, where heavy vehicles begin to roar, approaching like metal beasts. The real battle begins now. Not against the element, but against intention. The Curupira takes its first step in the mud, its inverted feet leaving marks that the rain immediately begins to erase, but which destiny will never forget. It walks towards the machines, small before the enormity of the steel, but great as life itself, which refuses to die. You follow it, entering the confrontation zone between the ancient world and the modern machine. The rain falls on both, washing away the past, but the future is yet to be written. Chapter 7, The Silence of the Machines. The rain falls torrentially, transforming the charred soil into a thick, slippery mud. The smell of ozone mixes with the acrid odor of burnt wood. Ahead, the machines roar. They are no longer men with axes. They are beasts of yellow and black steel, tractors with giant blades, trucks with tires as tall as houses, excavators whose hydraulic arms move with the cold precision of predatory insects. They advance across the still smoking earth, ignoring the rain, ignoring the pain of the forest. For those men inside the air-conditioned cabins, this is not a devastated sanctuary, it is a cleared field, ready for profit. The Curupira stops at the edge of the mud. He is small before those mountains of metal. His hair, once living flames, now looks like damp embers, but his eyes shine with an intensity that cuts through the curtain of water. They don't hear the ground, he says, his mental voice saturated with contempt. They only hear the engine. In ancient tradition, the machine is the antithesis of the spirit. It has no soul, it doesn't fear the whistle, it doesn't get lost in simple illusions because its operators blindly trust GPS and magnetic compasses, tools that the Curupira knows how to corrupt, but which require a greater effort. These men don't hunt out of hunger or vanity, they devour systematically. It's an industrial, impersonal, and infinite hunger. An excavator advances, its blade lowered to push the remains of a fallen, centuries-old tree. The operator, visible through the mud-stained glass, chews a cigarette, indifferent. He doesn't see the boy with inverted feet standing 10 meters away. Or perhaps he does, and laughs, thinking it's just a distorted reflection in the rain. The Curupira doesn't retreat. He raises his hands. This time, there's no whistle. There's a silent command directed at the earth itself. The ground beneath the machines, soaked by the miraculous rain he invoked, begins to change. The mud, once just water and ash, takes on the consistency of glue, a living trap. Subterranean roots, those that survived the fire in the depths, begin to move like blind serpents, coiling around the axles, the wheels, the steel tracks. The first machine stalls. The engine roars, straining, the wheels spin aimlessly, launching jets of mud into the air, but there is no traction. The vehicle sinks slowly, as if the earth were swallowing it alive. The operator shouts, banging on the dashboard. Inside the cabin, the radio crackles. The GPS, seconds ago accurate, begins to fail. The screen flashes, showing coordinates impossible, southern latitude where it should be north, negative altitude on top of a hill. The geographical, fake news, of the Curupira has infiltrated modern electronics. It confused the satellites with the same ease with which it confused the ancient hunters. A second machine tries to turn to help, but its headlights fail. It's not an electrical fault, it's the darkness of the forest refusing to be illuminated by those who don't ask permission. The lights flicker, projecting shadows that move on their own inside the cabin. The men see figures sitting in the back seats, see green hands gripping the steering wheel, see the face of the Curupira reflected in the glass, smiling with its mossy teeth. The panic, now, is both technological and spiritual. Men trained to dominate nature with engineering are defenseless against something that cannot be fixed with a wrench. The Curupira walks among the paralyzed machines. He touches the cold metal of a tractor. Where his hand passes, the metal rusts instantly, becoming covered in moss and lichen in a matter of seconds. The speed of biological time is accelerated by his touch. The machine, a symbol of human permanence, ages decades in minutes, becoming useless scrap, part of the landscape. You brought the fire, his voice echoes in the minds of all the operators simultaneously, making them drop their controls and cover their ears in vain. Now, the earth brings oblivion. One of the men opens the cabin door and leaps into the mud, trying to escape on foot. He runs desperately toward the edge of the clearing where his trucks are parked. But, looking back to see if the machine was following him, he makes the fatal mistake, he trusts his own eyes. He sees his own footprints in the mud. They point in the opposite direction from where he is running. Confused, he stops. He looks at the footprints again. They seem to say that he has already passed that way, that he is returning, that the exit is behind him. He spins, disoriented, and runs back into the middle of the stuck machines, entering the circle that the Curupira created. It is the power of inverted feet at its maximum potency, the inversion of causal logic. The more they try to use human reason to escape, the deeper they bury themselves in natural chaos. The Curupira climbs onto the hood of one of the rusty tractors. He looks at you, who observes the scene from a safe vantage point. Steel doesn't last long when life decides to reclaim its space, he says. But this is only a postponement. They will return. They always return, with more machines, more fire, more hunger. He leaps from the tractor, landing silently in the mud. His expression changes. Fury gives way to a deep melancholy. He walks to a small sapling tree that has miraculously sprouted from the ash, protected by the rain. He covers it with his small body, like a living shield. I can stop 100 men. I can break 1,000 machines. But I can't be everywhere at once. My strength has limits. He looks at you, and there's a question in those ancient eyes that transcends myth. The forest doesn't just need a supernatural guardian. It needs guardians of flesh and blood. People who understand that inverted feet aren't a trick, but a warning. Look back, at what you left behind, before moving forward. The sound of propellers cuts through the sky above the rain. A helicopter approaches, its lights sweeping the area, searching for the lost vehicles. Reinforcements are on their way. The Curupira knows he can't fight an entire army indefinitely. Magic has its cost. The vital energy of the forest was spent stopping the fire and rusting the steel. We need to go, he orders. To the heart. Where no machine has ever reached. Where the last pure seed awaits. He makes a quick gesture. The machines, now completely overtaken by the accelerated vegetation, begin to sink definitively into the mud, becoming part of the soil. The men, trapped in their mental labyrinth, scream for help as the helicopter attempts to land on terrain that seems to change shape every second. The Curupira runs. This time, he leaves no trace. Neither forward nor backward. He disappears into the density of the reclaimed forest, dragging you with him by the force of his will. The final journey begins now, he whispers as they enter the green darkness. We will visit the origin. The place where I was born. If they find this place, there will be no return to the world. The forest closes behind you, swallowing the noise of the machines, the screams of the men, and the roar of the helicopter. All that remains are the sound of the rain, the guardian's panting breath, and the beating of your own heart, quickened by the revelation that the battle never ends, it merely changes scenery. They are heading for the forbidden sanctuary. And you are the only human, besides the ancients, invited to enter. Chapter 8, The Sanctuary of Inverted Time. The rain stopped abruptly, as if an invisible wall had been crossed. The air here doesn't smell of wet earth or ashes, it smells of something ancient, untouched, a perfume of flowers that only bloomed before the existence of man. The light is different too, it doesn't come from the sun, but emanates from the leaves themselves, shining with a silvery and golden softness. You follow the Curupira, but your feet seem to float. There is no mud, no thorns, no chaotic tangle of the common jungle. The trees here are colossal, trunks so wide that 100 men holding hands could not encircle them. Their canopies touch at the top, forming a living roof that blocks the outer sky. This is the heart of the forest. The Yvy Mary Y, the land without evil of Guarani myths, the refuge where time does not run linearly, but in a spiral. The Curupira walks more slowly now. His posture is no longer that of a warrior, but of a priest entering the supreme temple. His fiery hair has almost completely faded, leaving only a soft glow, like embers under ashes, reflecting the peace of this place. Few have seen this, his voice resonates with sacred reverence. And none of those who came with axes survived to tell the tale. Because this place does not exist on the map of men. He stops before a circular clearing. In the center, there is not an ordinary tree, but a single vegetal entity that seems to be the mother of all others, a tree with bark as white as bone, whose exposed roots form a natural throne over a spring of crystalline water. The water does not flow outward, it swirls in perfect circles, mirroring the stars even in daylight. Here I was born, confesses the Curupira, sitting on the roots. For the first time, he looks exactly as his form suggests, a child. Tired. Lonely. When the first tree was cut down out of greed, not necessity, my conscience awoke in these waters. I am the memory of the forest. As long as this place exists, the forest can be reborn, even if the world outside is completely burned. You approach, feeling a profound peace, but also a terrible weight. This is the last stronghold. If men with their machines and satellites find this coordinate, if they destroy this spring, the cycle will be broken forever. There will be no more Curupira. There will be no more forest. Only desert and silence. The guardian looks at the swirling water. My feet are inverted, have you understood why? He doesn't wait for an answer. He plunges his hand into the water. Men walk looking only forward, to the future, to what they can take. They never look back, at the trail they leave, at the past they sustain. I turn my feet to force them to look back. To see the destruction they have already caused before taking the next step. It's a constant warning, look back, or you will lose your way. His explanation strikes a deep chord within you. Mythology is not just fantasy, it is a lesson in ecological ethics encoded in symbolism. The Curupira is the embodiment of retrospective responsibility. Suddenly, the sanctuary's tranquility is shattered. A strange, mechanical sound vibrates through the ground. It's not the roar of a nearby engine, but a high-pitched, electronic frequency. The drone. Small, black, silent, hovering above the canopies of giant trees, penetrating the natural barrier that concealed the heart of the forest. The Curupira leaps to his feet, his energy instantly returning. His hair ignites in furious red flames. His green teeth grind. They've found a breach, he cries, his mental voice brimming with urgency. Their technology sees what the eyes cannot. They've mapped the heat, the humidity, they've found the spring. The drone descends slowly, its camera spinning, capturing images of the white tree, of the sacred water. Data is transmitted to the outside world. Coordinates are sent to the fleets of machines waiting at the edge. We can't let this image get out, says the Curupira, rushing towards the base of the mother tree. If the world finds out where this is, it will be the end. He looks at you, and there's a terrible decision in his eyes. A decision that goes beyond illusion or physical strength. To protect this place, I need to do something I've never done before. I need to erase the world's memory of it. I need to make everyone who entered here forget. He extends his hand to you. Including you. The drone hummed lower, preparing to land or launch a marker. The Curupira prepares his final whistle, a sound so deep it promises not only to confuse the mind but to erase years of memory, to reset the consciousness of whoever heard it. It's the price of protection, he whispers, tears in his burning eyes. To save the secret, I must steal your story. You will forget the Curupira. You will forget this place. You will forget that magic is real. He approaches you, his hand trembling slightly. Do you accept this sacrifice? Or will we fight until we are killed, taking the secret with us to the grave? The drone is meters away. The camera focuses on your face. Time seems to freeze. The choice is yours, but the sanctuary's fate hangs by a thread. The Curupira awaits, its whistle stuck in its throat, ready to sweep your mind clean as the rain washes away the ashes. The hum of the propellers becomes deafening, contrasting with the sacred silence of the spring. The Guardian's eyes gleam with a mixture of despair and hope, waiting for humanity, represented by you at this moment, to choose the preservation of the mystery over its own memory. His hand hovers in the air, awaiting your consent to begin the ritual of eternal oblivion. The forest holds its breath. The future of the forest, and your own identity, depends on what you decide in this single instant suspended between myth and reality. Chapter 9, The Price of Oblivion. The drone's buzzing is a persistent metal mosquito, cutting through the sacred peace of the sanctuary. The camera lens shines with a fixed red dot on its chest, transmitting images to cold screens thousands of miles away. The Curupira is tense, its childlike muscles taut like bows about to fire. You look at the Guardian. You look at the white tree, the spring swirling, mirroring a sky that doesn't exist outside. And then, you make your decision. Not with words, but with a slow, steady nod. The Curupira closes its eyes for a fraction of a second. An immense sadness crosses its face, more painful than any wound from fire or steel blade. It knows what it's doing. It knows that, by saving the forest, it is condemning you to lose the truest part of yourself, the memory of the sacred. So be it, his voice whispers, no longer in your mind, but in the air, laden with an ancient and heavy power. For the life of the forest, I offer its oblivion. He opens his mouth and lets out a whistle. It's not the high-pitched sound that drives you mad, nor the howl that causes panic. It's a single note, pure and crystalline, vibrating at a frequency your bones feel before your ears do. The sound touches the drone first. The machine trembles in the air, its propellers instantly decelerate, and it falls like a stone, crashing into the spring water without a splash. The lights go out. The red dot dies. The transmission is cut off. Then, the sound wave hits you. It doesn't hurt. On the contrary. It's like a warm embrace from someone you love deeply and just lost. You feel your memories begin to dissolve, not like sand carried by the wind, but like ink on water. They expand, become diffuse, lose their defined edges until they disappear into the vastness of the unconscious. You see the face of the Curupira. The fiery hair. The green teeth. The inverted feet. You try to etch this image into your retina, to scream his name within your own soul, to hold on to every detail of this journey. The healed jaguar, the lost lumberjacks, the devouring fire, the miraculous rain. But it all slips away. Who is he, you think, and the thought is already blurred. Where am I? The question arises, but the answer evaporates before it forms. The Curupira walks towards you. He places his two small hands on your temples. His ember eyes meet yours, and in them is an eternal farewell. Thank you, he says. You were a true guardian, even if you never knew it again. He gently presses your forehead against his. A final flash of energy courses through your body. It's not pain, it's liberation. The weight of responsibility, the terror of the chase, the beauty of the sanctuary, everything transforms into a golden mist that rises and dissipates. You blink. The world around you changes. The silvery light becomes just the ordinary filtered light of the afternoon in the forest. The scent of ancient flowers reverts to being just the smell of earth and damp leaves. The white tree is still there, majestic, but it seems just a very large tree, not the center of the universe. And the boy? The Curupira has taken a step back. He no longer appears as a mythical entity to your confused eyes. He is just a distant figure among the trees. His colors seem less vibrant, as if the magic that allowed you to see him fully had been switched off along with your memory. He points to a narrow path that winds between the ferns. A path that leads out, to the edge of the forest, to the world of men, of roads, of cities. Go, his voice comes weakly, like an echo of a dream you had long ago. The path is clear. No one will follow you. No one will find you. You look at your hands. They're dirty with mud, scratched by branches. You feel a deep weariness in your bones, as if you've walked for days, but you don't remember walking. You don't remember fire. You don't remember machines. You don't remember a boy with inverted feet. There's a vague feeling in your chest, a longing for something you can't name. A void. As if you've lost a precious object, but you don't know what it is. You look at the dense woods ahead. You feel a sudden respect, a healthy fear of going deeper. An inner voice, ancient and instinctive, whispers, "Don't go beyond here." Respect. Where did this thought come from? You don't know. It seems to have always been there. The boy in the shadows makes one last gesture. He turns his back. His feet, strangely, seem to be turned backward as he walks into the green darkness, away from you. Or is it just an optical illusion caused by the light of the trees? You rub your eyes, and when you look again, he's gone. Only the silence of the forest remains. A silence that now seems vigilant, attentive. You turn and begin to walk in the indicated direction. Your steps are uncertain at first, but soon gain rhythm. You leave the clearing by the spring, cross the area where the fire passed, which now looks like just an old scar, covered in new shoots, and finally see the line of trees giving way to an open field. As you leave the woods, the air seems different. Drier. Noisier with distant sounds of traffic or human machinery. You stop at the edge, looking back at the impenetrable green wall. For a second, just a second, you think you hear a sharp, playful whistle coming from within the shadows. You smile without knowing why, shake your head, and begin to walk toward civilization, carrying the lesson with you without remembering the master. But the story is not over. Because as long as there are those who forget, there will be those who need to remember. And in the depths, something watches, waiting for the next time the balance is broken. The Curupira fulfilled his duty. And you? You survived to tell a story you can't remember. Chapter 10, The Echo That Never Silences. You are on the edge of the road. The hot asphalt gleams under the afternoon sun, and the distant rumble of a truck breaks the absolute silence that still echoes in your ears. You look back at the dark line of trees. Everything seems normal. Just a forest. Just wood and leaves. But something has changed in you. As you walk toward civilization, you notice that your steps are lighter, more careful. Passing a small flower sprouting in a crack in the concrete, you instinctively steer away, so as not to crush it. Seeing an injured bird on the roadside, a wave of deep sadness washes over your chest, an empathy you didn't feel before entering that forest. You don't remember the Curupira. You don't remember his name, nor his green teeth, nor the whistle that erased your memory. But the sacred fear remains. Reverence is engraved in your soul, deeper than any conscious memory. It's as if your cells have learned a new language, the language of respect. Far away, in the depths where time spirals, the Curupira watches your departure. He once more on the roots of the white tree sits. The spring water begins to swirl serenely again, reflecting the stars that only appear in that protected sky. The destroyed drone has dissolved into mud, returned to the earth. The secret is safe. Once again, greed has been thwarted. Once again, balance has been restored, whatever the cost. The guardian sighs. His fiery hair gleams softly, illuminating the dimness of the sanctuary. He looks at his own small hands, then at his inverted feet. They forget, he murmurs to the water, his voice echoing off the living walls of the roots. They always forget. But the forest remembers for them. His solitude is vast, ancient as the mountains. He knows that men will return. Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps in 10 years. They will bring new machines, new maps, new ways to destroy. And he will be there. Always. Waiting. Ready to confuse, to frighten, to guide the lost back or to lose the guilty forever in the green labyrinth. He is not a hero seeking applause. He is not a god seeking temples. He is a function of nature. Necessity. As long as there is life in South America, as long as there is a standing tree and a flowing river, the Curupira will exist. He is proof that the land has defenders who do not sleep, who do not negotiate, and who do not forgive arrogance. The wind blows through the sanctuary, carrying the scent of the rain that fell outside, clearing the smoke from past fires. New seeds are germinating in the ash. Life persists. And the Curupira smiles, a small, secret smile, full of green teeth and fierce hope. He rises. His inverted feet touch the ground, pointing to the past, reminding everyone that the future depends on what we leave behind. He begins to walk, disappearing among the shadows of the giant ferns, becoming part of the landscape, invisible to inattentive eyes, but present in every crack of a branch, in every moving shadow, in every sudden silence of the forest. His story doesn't end here. It begins again with each sunrise, with each invasion, with each act of resistance from nature. And you? You continue your life. Perhaps, on any given night, hearing the wind howl between the city buildings, you feel an inexplicable shivering. Perhaps, in your dreams, you see flashes of fiery hair and feet walking backward. You won't know what it means. But, deep in your heart, you will know that the forest is watching. And that there are limits that should not be crossed. That is the true magic of the Curupira. He doesn't need to be remembered to be real. He only needs your respect. The forest breathes. The guardian watches. The cycle continues. This story comes from the oral tradition of the Tupi Guarani people and the legends of Brazilian folklore, honoring a worldview where nature is alive, sacred, and endowed with its own will. If it touched you, comment, what ancestral lesson about respect for nature do you take from this journey to your life today?